Okay. Well, Mr. Sharif, thank you for receiving us.
Thank you.
Pakistan is going through a very critical time right now with the elections being postponed to February 18th after the assassination of Pakistan People's Party leader Benazir Bhutto on December 27th. You now appear as the main opposition figure in the country, and some commentators are saying that the PPP is a bit adrift with the lack of leadership. Is this something, would you share this analysis, and what is your view on Benazir Bhutto's widower, Mr. Zardari, and taking over the PPP leadership until his son Bilawal finishes his study?
Too many questions in one. First of all, it's a very tragic incident, and we're all very sorry what happened to Benazir Bhutto. And I said earlier, it's a gloomiest period that Pakistan is passing through. एक मिनट ठहर जाओ, दरवाज़ा आप कोई ना खोले. Yes, excuse me. Well, as far as the postponement of the elections is concerned, People's Party and our party was not in favor of postponement of elections. And we made it very clear that the government must not postpone these elections. But the government has postponed the elections because its position, or its King's Party's position in the elections, was very weak. They don't have a vote bank, they don't have any support in the masses. It's not a proper party. It's a party of few people who they consider are good candidates. But even if a candidate is good, his personal vote bank is not more than 5 to 10,000 votes, that's all. But the party has no grassroots support in the country. So this is to answer your first question. Your second question was about the leadership of People's Party. Well, of course, the People's Party had to choose a leader, and it is, of course, their prerogative to choose a leader whomsoever they think is the best. Under the circumstances, they've chosen Asif Zardari and, of course, Mr. Bilawal. So we respect their decision. We think they have done this in the best interest of their party. So we have no objection. We would like to work with the People's Party. We would like to work with all the democratic forces in the country to establish the rule of law in Pakistan and get rid of military dictatorship for all times to come.
You have declared repeatedly that free and fair elections couldn't take place under the current government of Mr. Musharraf. In the aftermath of Benazir Bhutto's assassination, you have called for a boycott of elections, and then you changed your mind. Could you tell us what has changed? Why did you change your mind?
It was to show solidarity and express our deepest concern to the family of Benazir Bhutto, to the People's Party, and to the people of Sindh. And I think it was a right decision at that time. And then we also tried to persuade People's Party to boycott these elections after this tragic incident of Benazir Bhutto's assassination. I went to the hospital straight away because we were campaigning in the same city, Rawalpindi. She was addressing a rally and I was campaigning on the other side of the city. So as soon as I learned about the incident, I rushed to the hospital. Then the news came that she's critically injured, so I was very concerned. By the time I reached the hospital, the news came that she expired. So I was very upset, very disturbed. So when I went there, the People's Party workers were crying and screaming and weeping. So they all told me that, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, you've got to fight our battle now. And uh, then the following day, I went to Ladkana to offer my condolences and also to pay respects to the late Benazir Bhutto. So I felt it very necessary after consulting my colleagues in the party that as a mark of respect and to express our solidarity with the uh, departed soul and also with the People's Party, we should announce a boycott. I tried to also convince the People's Party's new leadership to announce a boycott, but then of course they felt that the elections must be held and they should participate in the elections. So they also made an appeal to us that we should also not boycott the elections. But I felt that a unanimous boycott will be a real boycott. A partial boycott will not solve the problem. So that is the main reason that we decided to contest these elections after they made this appeal to us.
Now, about these elections themselves, you appear to have some doubts about how they will be conducted. In fact, 2 days ago, you received some observers from the European Union here, and you declared that you had some evidences of vote rigging that you would provide in the future. Could you elaborate on the nature of these evidences, and is there any link with the report that the PPP uncovered recently after Ms. Bhutto's death?
Actually, you see, Benazir Bhutto called me 2 days before she died, and she wanted to wish me on my birthday. My birthday happens to be on the 25th of December, which is the Christmas day. So she also sent me a bouquet. She was very kind. And she also said to me, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, I have hard evidence of the elections being rigged, and I want to discuss this matter with you. I said, by all means, yes. So she said, why not we meet before the elections? I was campaigning in Bahawalpur and she was in Multan. She called me from Multan. So I said, okay, we can meet in the next 3-4 days. And we were planning to meet, and the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the rigging plans of the government. But then it didn't work out because she died. And yesterday, day before yesterday, our meeting with the European observers was also in the same context. We told him what we have so far come across as far as the government's rigging plans and manipulation of the elections is concerned. And he was also very surprised to receive some of the evidence. So we told him to please have it verified, and then this can be a very solid and concrete evidence that you can present in your press conferences. But we also are coming out with some concrete evidence regarding the rigging of the elections, the rigging plans of the government of Pakistan. You know, as I told you, the King's Party, the Q League, has no support in the masses, has no vote bank. It's depending and relying on Mr. Musharraf's rigging plans. Mr. Musharraf and his agencies have acquired a lot of expertise in rigging the elections because they've also rigged his referendum in the past. They rigged the elections in 2002. And with all those riggings, they could only manage to get Mr. Jamali elected by a margin of one vote, and also by winning over 15 opposition votes, they were able to get him elected just by a margin of one vote. So at that time, Mr. Musharraf was very strong and was on the top of things. But this time around, he is very weak, of course, and therefore he is planning to rig these elections. And why he wants to rig the elections? Because he wants indemnity for the actions he has taken on the 3rd of November 2007, when he brought out a new PCO. He imposed emergency in the country. It was not an emergency, it was a martial law. He had to suspend the constitution and bring out a provisional constitution order, which means martial law, which means the constitution was suspended and abrogated once again. So therefore, if he has to survive, then he has to provide indemnity to all those steps, and also indemnity to what he did against the judges, the action that he's taken against the judiciary. He has sacked them, he's put them under house arrest, which is never heard of any civilized country. But this is for the first time that such a thing has happened in Pakistan, and we have become a laughing stock before the world. I mean, I as Pakistani feel very embarrassed on what Mr. Musharraf has done in this country. He abrogated the constitution in 2000, sorry, he abrogated the constitution in 1999. He dissolved the parliament. He reduced the parliament into a rubber stamp, and he is gagging the press. He has now sacked the judiciary, and now he's done it for the second time in his 8 years period. His 8 years rule. He's imposing another martial law against his own government. So this is something what we never heard about in the past, and I think his excuse that the country was heading for a failed state, the same excuse was given by him in 1999 when he sacked my government and forcibly overthrew me as Prime Minister of the country.
Now, if I may, if the situation is so bad as you describe it, why exactly would you participate in an election if you don't think the result will be fair and can be trusted? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
This is what I've been trying to put across to the People's Party. This is exactly what I've been saying to the People's Party and telling them repeatedly. This is what I exactly have been trying to put across to Benazir Bhutto also when she was alive. Not once, but I talked to her many times on this subject, that the elections are not going to be free, fair, or transparent. We must not participate in elections where Mr. Musharraf is making all the rules himself. He's making all the rules of the game, and we'll be playing on his ground, on his wicket. So let's not get into this trap. But as I told you that they did not agree, so I thought if the elections are to be boycotted, it has to be a unanimous boycott. Any one party boycotting the elections and the others not will not solve the problem. It will only help Musharraf and his King's Party. So we'll be leaving the field open for them. So therefore, I tried my best. When it didn't work out, so we had to participate, and I am participating with the intention to restore the rule of law in the country, to restore democracy, to restore the constitution, to throw out all these amendments in the constitution brought into the constitution by the dictators, to restore the judiciary, to make it fully independent, restore the freedom of the press. So this is basically what I stand for, and our stand is very clear. And we also have included in our manifesto that our party will make sure that the military's role is abandoned in politics for all times to come. This is our main agenda of the manifesto.
You mentioned various times that you have had contact with Benazir Bhutto and with your party. One knows from polls which have been conducted a few months ago that the PPP was given 35% estimate of the votes, and your party around 25%, with Mr. Musharraf party coming a close third with 23%. Now,
No, I don't know which one you quoted.
this is a poll which was conducted by the International Republican Institute in November, end of November.
3 different polls conducted by them. In one of the polls, we were the highest. In other polls, People's Party has been the highest at 30%. We were 25%, and Musharraf's party was somewhere around 20%. But in one of the polls, my position was 56%. People's Party's position was 29%, and Musharraf was 17%. So three different polls have come out. I don't know which one you were talking about.
This is the last one, the one from November. But in any case, the point I was trying to make is that it seems very difficult that any single party of opposition could oppose and dilute Mr. Musharraf's authority, and let alone to reach the 2/3 majority, which would be needed for an impeachment procedure, for example. You have declared, for example, on December 31st, that you would not be opposed to an alliance with the PPP for the cause of democracy. Has there been any talks with the PPP on this matter, with the new direction, the new leadership? And what kind of alliance could be envisaged, either prior the elections or after the elections?
If we are to get rid of the army's intervention in politics, every now and then, all these martial laws or military takeovers, then I think all the democratic forces have to unite. Otherwise, the problem will not be solved. So, we are ready to cooperate with any party, including the People's Party, for this cause, because we think Pakistan has suffered very heavily at the hands of military dictatorship. If we had democracy in Pakistan, we wouldn't have encountered all these problems that we have been encountering in the past and also today. The country today is in shambles. The country today is at the brink of disaster. Mr. Musharraf has hit the very roots of this country. All the pillars of the state, all the institutions of the state are today in a very bad shape. Mr. Musharraf wants to save his own skin, and to save his own skin, he has destroyed the institution of judiciary. And he sacked the judiciary because he felt that a judgment is coming from the judiciary which will not allow him to contest the elections, or which will declare him ineligible to contest the presidential elections. So just for the sake of his own interest, personal interest, he sacrificed and he compromised with certain things which are unthinkable. And I don't agree with this philosophy. And I think this man is systematically destroying the country. We've all we must all get united on this issue. It's a very noble cause, and this country was not meant for military dictatorship. And we must give the 160 million people of this country their right to elect the people of their own choice. And this routine, this has become a routine now for the army to take over the country, stage a coup d'etat, and then hang a prime minister, exile somebody, another prime minister, or put them in jails and put them in dungeons in 16th century forts. I've been, you see, confined to a small little dungeon in a 16th century fort, which was built mainly for the prisoners of wars. And I stayed there for 14 months. They handcuffed me, and they treated me and my family very badly. So I think this must come to an end now.
So your view that some kind of union, of unity, let's say, is necessary. Is it something that is shared by the PPP, and would it also include the MMA, for example?
Well, it is for all the political parties who believe in democracy and who believe in the rule of law. I think all will have to get united on this.
And this coalition, let's say, or this alliance, broad alliance, how would you make it work? Let's say beyond the fact that it would be necessary to oppose Mr. Musharraf, but if it's successful, what would be the platform, let's say, and the common points between these different parties' programs that you would see as able to put together and actually run a government on a common platform?
Well, the first of all will be to restore the judiciary, the judges who have been removed from office, to restore them, and that will be the first and the foremost. And if we have a really independent judiciary, it will take care of a lot of problems in this country itself. Even it can prevent future martial laws in this country if it holds them accountable.
And on the other case, how do you see the future of Pakistan if it were Mr. Musharraf party winning the elections?
I only see the future of Pakistan in democracy. I only see this future of Pakistan under democracy and not dictatorship, because dictatorship has ruined this country. As I told you, we've suffered greatly at the hands of dictatorship. We lost East Pakistan when we had military rule in this country. And we suffered at the hands of dictatorship in the past, and today again we are suffering at the hands of dictatorship. Look what is happening in all the provinces of Pakistan. The tempers in Sindh are very high. The tempers in Balochistan are very high. We've got to save them. You see, we cannot do it unless we have democracy, we have rule of law, we have the rule of the constitution, and all the political and democratic forces sit together and together find a solution.
One thing I noticed is that your party in some polls was being the favorite in the province of Punjab and also in the Northwest Frontier province, while the PPP was first in the other two provinces, Balochistan and Sindh. Is this something that would be relevant, some kind of complementarity on a regional, let's say, level? Is it something that should be taken into account in any possible alliance?
Our party won the elections in this country twice. One in 1990, won in 1997, and we got votes from all the provinces of the country, from Sindh, Balochistan, Frontier, Punjab, both times. And when we were in the opposition, we again got votes from all the provinces. So our um, party, of course, is Pakistan-based party. It's not restricted or confined to one province or two provinces. And we are a party who so far have polled the largest number of votes in this country. And we got a two-third majority in the 1997 elections. We are the first party who took the initiative of reversing some of the amendments brought into the constitution by dictators. And if you know of these amendments, the 13th and the 14th Amendment were meant to reverse the 8th Amendment brought into the constitution by military rulers. So I think our party is the first party, the only party who has done that in this country. Never before, or nobody after that, has embarked upon this kind of a bold initiative in the country. So our track record as far as democracy is concerned is very good and very solid.
I'd like to ask you a few questions which are more about your program, both on the domestic and on the international affairs. On the domestic front, according to polls, the main worries of the population and the main drivers for their votes by far are inflation, unemployment, and poverty. On the other hand, there seems to be very little concern about issues such as reform, democracy, corruption, or terrorism, or even education, which often top the list of international observers. How do you explain this discrepancy, and how, if elected, would you address these issues which are so important for the population of Pakistan?
I've given all the answers in your past questions, of course. But if you want another answer, I think these are the fruits of so-called fruits of dictatorship that we are witnessing today. See, they say that the treasury is full, but the people are struggling for flour. They don't have wheat flour. Wheat was exported some time ago at a very low price, then imported back into this country at almost double rates, double the price. Who made those heavy commissions in the exports and imports of wheat? And what was the need to export wheat when we ourselves are facing wheat shortage today in this country? This is a very big question that everybody needs to ask the government. And then the government has done nothing to improve the living standards of the common man, and they've done nothing especially for the downtrodden. The downtrodden is in a very bad shape. So if you see any development that has taken place in this country, it has always been in democratic eras. For example, if you take example of our government embarked upon a policy of free market economy. It is our government in 1990 which initiated privatization for the first time in this country. And we came up with very good economic reforms. Even India was surprised, and the Indian Prime Minister asked me that he wants to send a team to study our economic reforms in Pakistan. So we welcomed them. We said, okay, fine. And they took that blueprint from us, implemented that successfully in India, while the momentum here in this country was then broken by the then president, who dissolved our parliament on the recommendations or on the support of the Chief of Army Staff. So I should say that the Chief of Army Staff must stay as the Chief of Army Staff. We want the army to stay within its domain and not step out of its domain and enter into politics. And we don't want the Chief of Army Staff to become a super prime minister in this country, right? So what I mean to say is that these are the results of dictatorship that we are seeing today. So we have a track record of a government who actually believed in development of infrastructure, communication, network in the country. For example, the motorways that you see in this country. I don't know whether you've traveled from Islamabad to Lahore on the motorways. It's a motorway which was built by my government. The motorway has now gone further north from Islamabad to Peshawar. This motorway was to go right from Peshawar to Karachi. And we are the ones who actually laid the foundation for all these things. And that is why, having been absent from the scene for almost about 8 years, you still see this massive public support for our party. And the government really was unnerved after having seen this support of the people of Pakistan. And that is also one reason that they have postponed the elections, because they think that our party enjoys a very strong support at the grassroots level in the country. So, as far as development is concerned, we have an excellent track record.
So would you say that if you're elected, somehow your politics will be a continuation of what you had started?
Pick up the threads from where we left, and then also we're also the architects of normalizing our relations with India. The Indian Prime Minister came on a state visit to Pakistan for the first time when I was the Prime Minister in 1998. In 1998, or rather, sorry, in 1999, February 1999. He came to Pakistan. We signed the historic Lahore Accord, which said that both countries must resolve all their problems peacefully across the table. So this was a great moment for Pakistan and India.
On the other border with Afghanistan, is there anything
There was never a problem on the other border. The western borders were very peaceful. The problems has only arisen after Mr. Musharraf took over. We had never encountered such problems when I was the Prime Minister.
But now, given the current situation, there's some people worry about Taliban or Al Qaeda activities or terrorism. Is there anything special you would do to deal with it? How do you see this issue?
Well, Mr. Musharraf has been mishandling a lot of issues which are having their repercussions now, and terrorism or extremism. You see, we are against all forms of terrorism, whether it is in Pakistan or anywhere in the world, and we are committed to fight terrorism. But then, of course, terrorism thrives under dictatorship. It never thrives under democracy. Mr. Musharraf is in the habit of taking decisions off the cuff, and he takes decisions in a very casual manner. When I saw his dossier before appointing him as the Chief of Army Staff, uh, it was written in his dossier that he is a very erratic, impulsive, and highly unreliable. I think I made the biggest mistake of my life by appointing this man as a Chief of Army Staff. But I accept that I made a mistake. Somebody asked me, do you ever realize uh, what mistakes you made in the past when you were the Prime Minister? Or the biggest mistake that you committed? I said appointing Mr. Musharraf as the Chief of Army Staff. That is my biggest mistake. And that is my only regret. Anyway, we are not angels, we make mistakes. So, this man has been mishandling these sensitive issues, and now the country is facing all that. The country itself is in the grip of terrorism.